Hello, everybody. We're back once again. It's been a while for Amendment1Radio.com. Yes, it's a matter of having a nice, interesting thing with the Talkwad Studios that we had recently a while back. And now we decided to do it again. And today I've got a special young lady here, Bryn, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. A little 20-year-old nice gal that actually got suckered into coming in here and having a nice political conversation. So actually, we'll pretty much have some fun with it and give you, let's say, a real American's view on politics is a little bit different from your standard views on everybody else. So what do you like about our politics today?
Our politics today. I don't really know if I could say I like a lot about our politics today, particularly when it comes to how matters in Congress are being run. Really, I feel like there's a lot of gridlock, a lot of things not getting done. When it comes to the matters of this country, I do feel like sometimes our government focuses so much on the problems going on in other countries that they don't really focus on what's going on here at home. And I feel like our Congress has lost sight of what's actually really important as opposed to really trying to push their own agendas.
Yeah, that's a pretty good aspect on it. And it does. There is a lot of backdoor deals, especially with the overseas countries to basically the stuff like Afghanistan. What's our real purpose in Afghanistan? I mean, we've already gotten rid of bin Laden, so to speak, but yet why are we still there? So, and that's pretty easy because, the lithium mines over there are pretty nice and very profitable for our government. Not to mention the same thing with Kuwait. Why do we still have people there? It's not necessarily a governmental thing to where you can go in there and say, okay, well, hey, we're still there to help the citizens. But in actuality, we're still based there because of different political aspects of oil, gas, and certain aspects to that effect.
I agree.
Yeah, but now my thing is that, I mean, you're considered what they say. I mean, do you go by African American? I mean, is that something that sticks up that, is like politically correct for you? I mean, do you like that term?
I'm fine with the term. Honestly, I identify as either African American or Black. I do go to the University of Miami, and so the Black population actually doesn't always agree with that term because the students I go to school with are not just African American or they're not just Black. They might be Jamaican, they might be Haitian, they might be actually like Nigerian. And so the term, I guess it depends on where you're from and how you were raised. So for me, I've always identified as African American or Black. I've never have seen an issue with the term.
Yeah. Yeah, because my thing is I mean, where were you born?
I was born in D.C.
Okay. Well, hey, here's the best thing of all. In reality, a true American is born within 25 miles of Washington, D.C. You are considered a true American. Now, my theory is, and why we came into all this to where different politicians had to become politically correct, I don't care if you're Black, you're white, you're pink, you're purple, whatever the case may be, as long as you are a naturalized citizen of this country, why are you not considered an American? Why do you have to be labeled as a African American? Why do you have to be labeled as a Black American? Why do you have to be labeled as a Mexican or German or French or Italian American? It's just we've gotten to the point to where I feel everything in society has to be labeled. And it's just like I've got plenty of friends of mine that are Black, and I sit there and I ask them about it, and they tell me all the time, Well, in the politically correct aspect, yeah, you have to go with African American. They say even though none of our forefathers are from Africa, they go with that, which to me is more or less is more derogatory in that aspect than to be called what you truly are. And as far as I'm concerned, I could stand right here beside you and sit beside you and just sit there and say, "Hey, you're an American. Why do I have to label you?"
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I know in some of the classes that I've had over my tenure at the University of Miami, we do talk about the labeling of, race and ethnicity in this country. And we're actually one of like the only or the few countries that actually label our citizens based on race and ethnicity. And I feel like it kind of keeps a hierarchy possibly
Yeah.
in America to say, well, I'm this race, so technically I may be a step above you because I might be African, I might be white, I might be Chinese American.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and the sad part about it is we're categorized by our income as far as, okay, well, you've got your top 1% of Americans that are billionaires,
Right.
your top 10% that are millionaires. And then you used to have a middle class and now you've got low class.
Right.
You've got Americans that are struggling. But, the worst part about it is it comes into play that, now you're like, okay, well, why can't you just be an American worker instead of saying, okay, you're a minority? Because I don't like the term minority.
I don't like the term either.
Because actually, to me, that really stinks is because of the simple fact that, one of Bush Jr.'s ridiculous comments that he made before Congress was when he did a political fundraiser. And his comment was to the people in the crowd there at the tables. And he says, these are my two favorite people I like to see out here in the audience. He says, the haves and the have-mores. And to me, that, I'm sorry, that's the most derogatory slap in the face as an American person that you can possibly do. And and I feel really bad about that because of the simple fact that you look out at that, and the majority of everybody in there was everything from CEOs to presidents of companies to a lot of your different political heads of state leaders and stuff like that. I mean, I don't see nobody in there digging ditches that had the money to go in there for that fundraiser. I mean, because I don't know about you, but I don't have $25,000 for a plate of food to donate. If I had $25,000, I would go 2 blocks over from Pennsylvania Avenue to where the soup kitchen is that are veterans, are homeless, and these people are basically starving to death. And if it wasn't for the help of the churches there that helped them feed them, I would give my money to that church to sit there and have something done, because that gripes me worse than anything in the world to see billions and trillions of dollars on Pennsylvania Avenue and everything that's down there. And you go 2 blocks over and you see our own American people, veterans, everybody else that has served and gave blood, sweat, and tears for this country, and we leave them out in the cold.
But that goes back to the point I said earlier about our government and our leaders that we have elected have lost sight of what's actually important, actually taking care of the people that actually live in this country and actually need their help. To me, if a veteran comes home from war, they shouldn't be having all the issues that they have with finding a job or finding insurance to cover the possible medical issues that they may have received while they were over fighting for our country to keep us safe. No. Or I feel like America is supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world. There's no reason why we should have so many poor people, so many poor communities, and they get no aid. No one really pays attention to the need because they're like, oh, it's their fault because they're poor. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do have that mindset that you're poor because you don't want to achieve anything. You're poor because you don't do anything. You just sit on your butt. When really that is not the case. Yeah.
Well, there's only 2 words that come to mind that actually can answer that question in that situation. One of them's greed. The other one's power.
I agree.
And, and this is like the worst thing that we deal with on an everyday basis. It's like, I can sit here and ask you, what political party do you affiliate yourself with?
And I do affiliate with the Democratic Party.
Okay, now which one do you think is the lesser of the 2 evils, Democrats or Republicans?
In my personal opinion, I have to say that the Democrats are the lesser of the 2 evils.
Okay, now here's a good thing about it. how long has it been that you know for a fact that between you, me, everybody that's listening, every people that, you talk to on a daily basis and everything like that, how many of us do you know that made that 17 plus trillion dollars debt? Did you do it?
I don't think so. It wasn't me.
I didn't do it. None of the people that are listening or watching or tuning in or anything, they didn't do it. Mm-mm. There's only two groups of people that did that: Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. And the worst part about it is they're too busy worrying about what the other party's doing that they're forgetting that there is a separation of state government. This is why we have problems with government now, because of the simple fact they are more powerful than the people has ever been. Now we are in a situation where the government runs our lives. And this is something that's terrible because, what happened to our constitutional rights? We had a freedom of speech. We had a right to bear arms, and both of these have been attacked so bad, it's unbelievable. Even this president right now has passed a law in his first term that associated to the effect of, if you have a presidential candidate or any candidate, once he's picked up by Secret Service and they start watching him as he does his campaigning, if you or me was to go across the street when we seen him, and if we start calling him a bunch of names or anything like that, or derogatory remarks to him, did you know that we can be arrested and locked away until they decide what they want to do with us? No prosecution.
I guess when it comes to a law like that, I guess you have to really take into consideration, who the person is that is possibly saying these remarks. Because yes, words are just words, but you really never know if someone might follow those words with action. And I guess that's why that law may have been passed, because people are crazy these days.
Oh yeah.
People are crazy. And, you need to protect those, who are running for office, who are possibly in office, because you don't want any harm to come to that person. So I guess with a law like that, yes, it may be limiting our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech. But I guess in my opinion, just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean you always need to just say what you feel like saying, because it's not always necessary. No. And when it comes to political elections, it's people are going to say what they want to say. But if you're in front of someone running for office and you are saying remarks that may be threatening their lives, I feel like you should be removed from the premises, because you could not just be putting the candidate in life in jeopardy. You could also be putting the people around you in harm's way.
Yeah, and something to that effect, I would agree. If you're going to threaten their lives, then you have that right. But if I want to go up there and say, you're a complete butthead, you don't know what you're doing, and that you're an idiot, and yet they have the right to arrest me and put me in jail until they decide to do whatever they want to do with me, that's an infringement on your First Amendment right all day long. Mm-hmm. So, but when you go in there and you do actual threats of violence, then yes, there is a problem with that. And that is actually, you can't be arrested for that, because you can't threaten nobody. And even anybody off the street, you can be arrested for it. But, it's just, but on other aspects of, the political of everything today, how do you feel as far as Bush Jr. and Dick Cheney? Where do you think they should be at in this particular political realm of things now?
Honestly, I feel like, their time has passed and they just need to go ahead and retire and live peacefully and happily. But that's just, I'm only 20 years old. Yeah. So I only remember, I guess, so much of President Bush's tenure as president of the United States, because like I said, I'm only 20 years old. So from what I do remember, I feel like, him as a president, he didn't do a very good job, in my opinion. No. So when it comes to him and Dick Cheney and their continuing influence on our government and how politics is done in this country, I just feel like it'd be best if they just went ahead and left it alone.
Actually, when you get a chance, go online, look up the World Court.
The World Court. Okay.
Yeah. Take a good look at it and see what you see about Dick Cheney and Bush Jr. Because a lot of countries, various countries out there, when these two clowns decide to step into their country, they are going to be prosecuted for war crimes.
Wow.
Yeah, which, that's why they don't go to various countries.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the fact that pretty much Obama gave them asylum here in the United States, so that way they can do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, as far as the information that I've seen and what I've gotten out of it, both of these clowns should be in prison and should be rotting the rest of their lives there because of the simple fact of war crimes. And it's just like, as far as I'm concerned, in my actual opinion, they're no better than Hitler or Mussolini or anybody else to that effect, because of the simple fact there are procedures before you can declare war and go in there and act upon it. You can't do war by an executive order, walk into a country and just start killing people.
And if it's the wrong country at first.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely a wrong country altogether. And most people didn't really pay attention to a lot of different things. But when WikiLeaks came out, there was a lot being said in there as far as different Saudi leaders had sit there and said, well, they were having problems with Saddam Hussein, and that it was affecting their oil prices. It was affecting different areas of the oil industry and, all across the world. So when Bush came into effect, these people that had sit there and bailed him out of various business deals that he did that totally crashed because he's an idiot, this is why they went in there. And he says, okay, look, you help me, I help you. Next thing you know, we've got weapons of mass destruction to this day have never been found. And but yet these two clowns are still out there in public doing whatever they feel like they should do and enjoying life. And it's just like, I truly do feel both of them, they should be hanged in the middle of the square in Texas, right in Jerry Jones Stadium. That would be a good pay-per-view. Hang them both. Because what the people don't understand is that there's more veterans that committed suicide than what has actually been killed over there. And that's only because of the simple fact that they cannot deal with what they had to do. There was various military personnel that sit there and said, hey, when they were told to go in there and do the night raids and to kill everything that goes in there, that's what they did. They did what they were told to do. Mm-hmm. The problem was this was women and children and everybody that was in the area. And, this is something that should never be. I mean, we had no business being there. We have no business being in Afghanistan with what they've done over there. And, there's two dealings that are going on there in Afghanistan. One of them is the richest gas line in the world that is going to be cut through there, that also goes through Russia, supposedly Japan or China, and comes down in through that area. There's only two companies that was bidding on that deal. Both of them were American companies. One of them supposedly was Dick Cheney, which was involved in it. So, and, there's a lot of different things. Even Blackwater. Blackwater had a video of where they sit there and they said they were being fired upon. And as they were protecting the security aspect of what they were doing, there was 18 to 22 civilians that were killed. These are women and children that were actually killed when they released a video and said, well, hey, the guy's on top of the building, he's got an automatic rifle, and he's sitting there saying, oh, can you hear it? Can you hear it? They're firing back at us. I didn't hear nothing. So now, then the president of Kuwait goes in there and says, hey, get your guys out. We don't want them here no more. So one of the dignitaries from the United States went over there and said, look, we're going to fix it. We're going to take care of this, blah, blah, blah. Let us bring our people in here. We'll do the right security measures and get it right. Instead of coming in back as Blackwater, they came in under a different name, supposedly same company. So, and this is something that I have a problem with because it's all politically based. Mm-hmm. And when you voted, did you vote?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Who'd you vote for in the last presidential election?
I voted for President Obama.
Okay. Now, over a period of going on his second term, how do you feel that he's done?
I feel like he's done a good job based on the roadblocks he consistently is faced with as president. I mean, I do believe that, the president can only do so much if the people that he's supposed to be working with will not work with him. The president doesn't make laws. He enforces them. And it is the job of Congress to make these laws so that he is able to pass them and they can therefore be enforced. So if Congress isn't doing their job, how is the president supposed to efficiently do his job?
No. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good point. And, you know, it's just like when I tell people that when he first ran for office, the people that I know that were, you know, they're black, and they were like, hey, you know, it's great. You know, we're going to go vote for him because it's going to be the first African American to go in there and be a president, you know, and this is something that's going to make history. And it's like, I had told him, I said, well, here's the thing. Do your due diligence. Look up everything you can find out about him. See what's good, see what's bad, know what you're getting into. And then that way you can see exactly how many candidates are out there. See which one is the right pick for the American people. The problem is that you've only got two parties that are constantly put into the media spotlight. Mm-hmm. Democrats and Republicans.
Right.
There was only one person that I know of who stood out and really made a difference in that particular kind of a race, and that was Ross Perot way back when. And that's only because the dude had enough money to where he challenged him on his debates, mm-hmm. which actually was pretty good. But in that aspect of the Democrats and Republicans, with everything that was going on with them, the problem is you have technically what they call a Manchurian candidate. And that's what, you know, Barack Obama had came in there and wound up being. And it's just like I had sat there and told the people, I said, hey, from the information that I got through every article and stuff that I had read and everything, this man would turn out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And it's just like he's got an agenda that is not American. He is definitely something to where, you know, it's going to wind up being everything about corporate America. And it's sad. It's really sad. I mean, because he's a very articulate speaker. He's a very educated man. But yet at the same time, he, you know, and it's like I tell everybody, it's not to sit there and say, hey, I'm picking on him, because let me tell you something. Bush was no better. Cheney was no better. Bush Sr., Reagan, even Reagan, everybody said, oh, hey, rapping Ronnie Reagan, you know, he was the greatest. No, he wasn't. You know, our last great president that we really truly had that actually cared for the United States was Kennedy. And look where that got him. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, here's a guy who had his brains blown out by his own countrymen. You know, this wasn't no sniper deal. I mean, you know, this was done by his own political people. So, but, you know, even with Obama, the problem here is what most people don't know is most of your cabinet members that were carried over from Clinton to Bush again are the same members that are with Obama. And some of the things that Obama has done is because of the simple fact he's had his hands tied in various areas, but also at the same time, he's at areas to where he could walk in there and, I mean, he can basically go in there and kick some butt, you know, get things done, and, you know, to where nobody's going to question him. But when you're sitting there dealing with every other dignitary, dealing with Congress, the House, and everybody else, you know, it's like, okay, if I'm a good guy here, I'm a bad guy there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and basically it all boils down to the worst thing about it is that what I had read about, the first thing that I read about was the healthcare issue that he was going to put in place. Mm-hmm. A lot of people sit there and say, oh man, this is the greatest thing. It's really good. So finally I had to sit there and talk to a couple of people I know that really knew their stuff about the Obamacare. And I asked them, I said, how does this work? The way it was explained to me is you get a tax credit and per month, and this is how they base your insurance. So they go in there, like, let's say you make so much money, you make under $13,500. Okay, you're available for a $400 tax credit. Now that $400 tax credit, they're going to apply it to a health care plan to where you get this money, it pays for your tax. Mm-hmm. So what you do is now if you don't fall under that category and you've got to add some extra money into it, then your health care is cheap. So in my case, mine's like $89 and it's supposed to be the creme de la creme of health care. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, I found out it's not, but that's another story. So, but now the problem is they go in there and tell you, okay, you qualify to where you have to pay $50 a month. Okay, but we're going to give you a $400 tax credit to where it'll be used per month. And then that way at the end of the year, we'll find out whether we give or take. Now, the problem here with this is if they're giving you this tax break and you're doing $400 a month, what happens at the end of the year? Whose money are they actually using to make this happen? The problem is they're using your money. But now here's the catch. 10 years ago, I could go out and buy insurance, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, all of those. And it would cost me like $198 for really good insurance. It's just I couldn't afford to pay that at that time. Mm-hmm. But now they're saying that I'm getting a $400 tax credit that's going to be deducted from me at the end of the year. Well, 400 times 10, that's 4,000. That's $4,800 that's going to be used out of my taxes. So guess what? At the end of the year, when I'm thinking that, hey, I might get a couple hundred back, bet you I pay. Everybody's going to wind up having to pay to a certain point because sooner or later it's going to catch up to you. But now the problem is when they're making these monthly payments, supposedly, and they're giving you all these tax credits and everything, where's the money coming from all those $400 per month? Because you don't get your money out of it until supposedly, I guess, at the end of the year, whether you pay or whether you don't pay. Mm-hmm. So now, how are they floating all this excess money to make sure all of this is paid? Where's it coming from? It's coming from Medicare or Medicaid. So now when you're sitting there and you're taking money from them, how do you sit there and pay for the elderly? You cut their Social Security back. So now what you're doing, you're basically, to me, it's almost like you're doing Robin Hood. You're taking from what's already wealthy out there and you're taking it back at the end of the year. But now the problem is you're floating too much money. There's money going back and forth, but it ain't happening.
So what would be a better option then? Keep our healthcare system the way it was before?
Actually, what they should have done is, I really truly believe they should have went with something to where they did a limitation per healthcare company. Instead of the healthcare companies saying, okay, well, hey, we want to jack the insurance up so high and everything like that, not give you pre-existing conditions or anything. And what they did is they should have said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to regulate a certain cap on the insurance. But see, when you do that, the first thing everybody says, now you got socialized medicine. Mm-hmm. Well, now here's what's funny. You know, they say socialized medicine is a terrible thing, yada, 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 and everything like that, which to a point it is. And that so-called death squad that they were talking about, where if you're over a certain age that, you know, you're basically SOL, out of luck if you need some kind of transplant. I've actually heard of that happening already. And, you know, and that's, to me, that's a terrible thing. But, you know, it's just, this is, you know, what you have to give and take for it. So, you know, it's a really hard call to figure out what would actually work better. And actually, I think what it should have been is they should have took the politics out of medical. Mm-hmm. They should have let the medical go ahead, run their course, but at the same time, regulate it to a certain point to where they're comfortable, they make money, but yet the main concern is the quality of the healthcare for the American people. Not something to where it's like, okay, well, hey, we need to make more money here. We need to pool more money there. Because in actuality, when you start pulling from Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, then guess what? By the time you turn 65 years old, sorry to tell you this, you ain't got no Social Security. You don't have no Medicare. You don't have no Medicaid. Because at the rate that we're going, it's already been proven by top analysts that within the next 15 years, we wipe it out. It's done. I mean, I'm 50 years old going on 51. And, you know, this is what I got to look forward to by the time I turn 65. I'm SOL. So guess what? That means I'm going to be working till the day I die. And it's just, I don't care. You know, this is because of the simple fact that, you know, what can one person do? And everybody says, well, I'll worry about it when the time comes. The problem is when the time comes,
it's too late.
It's too late. We're almost there now because our government is pulling so many things And, you know, it's just, and the American people are not looking. They're not doing their due diligence. They're not caring about who the next president is. And mark my words, Hillary Clinton is going to run because she's going to be the so-called hands down winner, because she's going to go in there and be the first woman president. She's going to make all the, you know, the top choices and everything. And if the people listening that do see this on YouTube and every other aspect, when you see this, I guarantee you this, go vote for her. You'll regret the day you did. Because
so that means the option would be not to vote for Hillary Clinton, but is there a candidate good enough to run against her that will not make more of a mess of things than things really kind of are?
Yeah, there was actually a candidate for McCain and Obama, and even on the last presidency. And God, can't even think of what his name was now, but he was one of the governors for New Mexico. He was an independent. They would not let him in to any of the talks that they did as far as the debates. They wouldn't let him. He did his own debates online and stuff like that. And every one of the questions that was asked to the candidates, he answered on an online deal, which his turned out 100% better. And, you know, and it's just like, if you're going to do a tax, okay, then do a tax. Let's do a flat tax. Wipe out all the state taxes, wipe out everything, do a 23% straight tax across the board. Guess what? Everybody's paying taxes. You can't beat it. You can't get around it. You're going to pay. If you go to the 7-Eleven, you pay $1 for a Slurpee, you're going to pay $1.25. But also at the same time, they're getting their taxes. Now, the problem is they manipulate the taxes in various different forms. Everything we do is double, triple, and quadruple taxation. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at your cell phone bill. I mean, can you tell me what every one of those tax charges are?
No.
I mean, I don't even know what half the tax charges are on these things. You know, your car, your insurance, your stuff, heck, even if you go to a motel, they've got a motel tax. What's that about? You know, it's just like, even if you go to Universal, Disney World, anything like that, they have so-called, God, what is it, like a state recreational tax or something to that effect. Really? I thought we was only supposed to be in one separate tax, you know, in a certain particular tax bracket, not something that's created to where, okay, we need more money. It's even almost to the point like the lottery. You see all these billboards around, $10, $15 billion served to all out throughout the state of Florida. Have you seen anything?
No, I haven't.
I mean, you're down from the Miami area. I'm from the Hillsborough County and Central Florida area. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any better thing. I've seen that our governor, that I mean, I did vote for this Skeletor looking guy, but you know, the problem is the two candidates we had was Alex Sink, who was part of the president of Bank of America, who royally put a lot of people out of their homes, elderly and everybody else. Mm-hmm. Then you had Rick Scott, who was the highest fined person through a medical company because of the simple fact that he basically screwed the medical industry. So it's like, who do I go for? Do I go for the lady that put elderly people in the street, or do I go for the guy who screwed the government?
You always have to choose a lesser of two evils.
Yeah, but
always.
The problem is we need to have that third party in there, because even George Washington himself even quoted, America cannot survive on a two-party system. It has to make that change. Thomas Jefferson came in there and said that America needs a cleansing after 25 years. Every 25 years, they need a cleansing of government. Did you see, I guess years ago, I want to say within the past 5-8 years, something like that, they said, oh, we've got the oldest man in Congress. We wanted him to make 100 years old. So we know. You look around and you see the guy, and what's he doing? He's sleeping. They're letting this guy sleep while he's in Congress. I'm like, you know something? Kick his ass out. You know, you've got each and every one of these people that should only have their 2 terms and get out. It needs to change.
I do agree with that, because if you have the same person in the position of power over and over and over again. Nothing is going to change because their ideology is most likely going to stay the same. Their mindset is most likely going to stay the same. The way they run their ship is most likely going to stay the same. And times are always changing. This country is constantly changing. The way the demographics of this country is always changing. So you can't expect that if you do the same thing over and over and over again, that you're going to get the same result, because that is not the case.
Well, guess what? Welcome to my political world, because now you just sit there and said everything that I stand for, because of the simple fact that what you just basically stated was that you've got to make the change with everything. Everybody has to make that change, but you can't have the same people. Well, guess what? The Democrats have the same people and the Republicans have the same people.
And by making that change, people lose their power and their wealth. And we live in a capitalistic society where everything has to make money. If you are in an industry and is not making money, what's the point?
Yeah.
That's not my opinion, but that we do live in a capitalistic society. Unfortunately, our healthcare system is made
flawed
to make more money. Its main purpose really, it should be to take care of the people that it's serving, but really, no, it's to make money. And that's why, because our healthcare system was privatized for so long, insurance companies can hike up the prices. They can say, oh, we're not going to cover you because you have a pre-existing condition. Oh, sorry, we're not cover these fees because you are a liability. And that's very unfortunate. And that is not how a healthcare system or any system in the country should be run at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's 100% true. But now the worst part about it is the fact that you've got the politicians in place that can go in there when these bills come across to where they ask for more money through different things in insurance, that they can veto them. One of the best things that I did see was, if I ain't mistaken, I believe it was either Jeb Bush or Charlie Crist, when we had a lot of the storms that it came through, that a lot of the home insurance companies were going bankrupt because they didn't want to pay. So one of these two guys went in there and said, okay, well, hey, guess what? I'm not letting you pay up, because if you can sit there and go 10 years with no storms and these people are paying their premiums and you've got billions of dollars set back, and you're going to sit there and claim bankruptcy, where'd the money go? That's why you have these CEOs with their wonderful bailouts, with their wonderful golden parachutes. And it's a ridiculous feed of greed. And it's the worst thing in the world, because Americans have to remember this. You see this so-called Tea Party, this is a joke. It is an absolute joke, because the Tea Party is basically part of the Republican Party that is trying to go in there and pick up more votes through Republicans. And that's all it is. I mean, because the Tea Party started out so-called for the people. No, the American people need to sit there, do their due diligence, and figure out that, okay, quit being a follower, start being a leader. Democrats are not going to do nothing for us. Republicans are not going to do nothing for us. So for once in your lives, everybody has to get off their keister. They have to sit there and start looking, start learning, start watching and seeing everything about these people, and find out exactly what's wrong with the system, what's broke, and make the changes. So, and because if you don't, then everybody thinks that it's getting better. Guess what? I got news for you. Within the next 12 months, you're going to see something that I truly do believe is going to be catastrophic in an economic incidents that are going to really damage the United States at a higher price than what we've ever paid. There's already five countries that are trying to change the United States currency from the #1 currency in the world to what's called a Bitcoin. If they succeed in doing this, America will become a third world country overnight. That loaf of bread that you're paying $3 to $4 now will cost you in excess within 6 months, $15 a loaf. Gas will be outrageous. Milk will cost you so much money. You will see something that you've never, ever expected out of this country before. But the worst part about it is your politicians will still maintain their way of life.
And they'll continue to make more money off of everything.
Yeah. Well, here's the worst part. If you get a politician that gets into Congress, Senate, or anything like that, their standard pay is between $146,000 a year to $165,000 a year. They do 4 years. How is it that each and every one of them comes out a multi-millionaire? Condoleezza Rice, her first 4 years, she made $12 million. And nobody can explain it to me. How did she make that money? Wasn't because of books. Wasn't because she was a sport. Where did she get her money? I mean, McCain, Clinton, Bush, all of these people. Barack Obama was one of the highest raising money presidents in history. I mean, he raised more money than probably the past 4 presidents put together. But he also changed the law to where anybody can contribute into a presidential campaign fund if you have the right sources to contribute. Mm-hmm. You know how many overseas contributors there were? A lot that were never named because they went under shell corporations that donated millions. And it's just like, this is something that's already happening. This man has already been campaigning a year and a half ago for the Democratic Party. The leader of that Democratic Party is going to be Hillary Clinton. So, and that's why I tell people, watch out. Wait till you see what this lady's going to do. And it's not going to be, oh, hey, Bill's going to be in her corner backing her up. They're going to be in the back of the corner saying, show me the money. Because the presidency is not about the American people. Not that I can see anymore. It's all about show me the money. But the problem is we don't learn. We don't look. We don't worry about it until it's too late.
But that's more than the presidency. That's any, at least in my opinion, that's any politician.
Yep.
That's any politician. If you're in politics, because you're trying to make money, or you're trying to make sure that people that are in your corner are making money for you.
Yep. The problem is we lost track of morals. We lost track of standards. We lost track of doing what is right for our country.
And that was before me. Yeah. So how do you correct a system that has really been corrupt for decades?
First, you fire all the lobbyists. You get them out of Washington, D.C. and out of every state there ever was. Then you go in there and you kill off all the, not kill off, but you fire them, mm-hmm. You fire all the corporate sponsorships. You go in there and you change the voting system around to where it's not computer generated. So that way you don't have the Republican and the Democratic hackers to go in there and change the votes. You make it to where it's a ballot setup again, and you have it to where everybody votes, and you keep it to where it's a legitimate vote, and you start finding out who the legitimate candidates are. Because the last election, how many people ran for president that you know of?
That I know of?
Mm-hmm.
Probably that I know of, like a good 6 or 7.
14.
14.
Most people only knew that there was 2 people that ran for president. Actually, what was funny, Roseanne Barr ran for president.
Yeah, I've never heard that name.
Yeah, she was the actress on TV that did the show Roseanne. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but and that's the thing. Nobody knew about this because they didn't look into it to see who was running for president. All they seen was Obama and McCain. And, it's just like, who do you pick? The lesser of the 2 evils? And it's just, it's sad to say that the ideology of what he has shown in the 8 years that he's been president, I haven't seen nothing good out of it. I've seen something that's been, I'm not saying he's the worst president because he wasn't. But, the joke in the White House with Jimmy Carter was, he says, hey, he said, you know something? I think Obama is the greatest president that ever happened to this country. And they asked him, they said, why? And he said, because I'm no longer the worst president. He says, he is. He says, I moved up on the ladder. And, it's just, and that's the sad part about it, because he's no better than Bush. He's no better than Bush Sr., and it's just, and what gets me, Bush Sr. was head of the CIA during the point to where Kennedy got assassinated. Isn't it amazing how Bush Sr. sit there and said that he wasn't in Dallas, Texas that day, but yet they got photographs of him? So, but that's a whole different story. Yeah. But, Americans need to go in there, and what they really need to do is they need to read. They need to do their due diligence, because 2016 is going to be the most crucial vote this country has ever had in history, because We either make it or we break it.
But I think an also important thing to say is don't just read, but actually analyze what you're reading, because you can't believe everything that you read. You can't believe everything people are telling you.
Correct.
Because there's a difference between opinion and fact. And a lot of people get opinion and fact mixed up.
That's the truth on that, because I've seen a lot of people get that mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and that's why I look at key points and I look up different, like in one perspective, I'll look at 10 different angles of it. So that way, whichever the most comes in, I can base my own, basically my opinion on it, the way it works. And then if I have problems, I'll call somebody. I mean, because, hey, I'm a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like you go out and you see in most of the stores, you know, here's a book, dummies, you know, computers for dummies. Well, guess what? You know, hey, I'm that guy. I'm the dummy for politics. So, but anyways, we are down to a minute. We're pretty much done. It's definitely been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
I enjoyed this. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, hopefully we both learned something here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's just like, it's very plain and simple. Democrats and Republicans, they both suck. Vote for the American way of life. Get rid of them. Independence. But check and find out who's the one that's really good for the country, not who's on TV. I mean, next thing you know, we'll be voting for Ronald McDonald and Big Mac dude, you know. So,
we can't have that. We cannot have that.
actually, the bad thing about it is it can't do no worse than anybody else.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. The next president needs to go in there and get rid of the committees, the cabinets, and everything he's got and do his job.
And remember what's most important, which is the American people.
That's it. That's why I'm going to start up a new thing. I'm going to start calling it the American Party. So, hey, why the heck not? Worst I can do is get into politics. Because pretty soon I plan on running for mayor of Tampa. So,
you probably do a great job at it.
Hey, I tell you what, I think I do great, especially on the stadium. So, all righty, guys, we got to wrap it up. It's been a pleasure. And definitely, I hope to have you on here again. We'll have fun again.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all righty, we're out of here, folks. Have a good one. See ya.